Hello everyone, welcome to our first lesson on Pycharm, or Python per se. So if you're taking my class, we use Pycharm. This is version 2017. This version will run out in August and then I'll upgrade to the 2018. As long as you have an education account, what that means is as long as you have an email with a .edu account, you could get this for free per annually license. So this is our first lesson on Pycharm. So we're going to recommend that if you're taking my class, start off with chapter 2 and go through that, and we'll do some lessons talking about input processing and output, but we'll just start off slowly with doing some stuff. All right, so let's get in. First thing you want to do is create a new project. You have all these different options here, but we're doing Python, so I am going to call this project lesson 1 of many. You can choose your interpreter. I'm going to use 3.6 and hit create. All right, excellent. So now I have this project over here. You have the fill, you have lesson 1, you have libraries. We're not really going to talk about this too much. Just real quick, these different packages. So in order to do certain things, you have these packages, and we'll talk about in another video how to install certain things that we want to install. So let's say that we're doing something that includes a new library. So let's say that, for example, in this case here, we have Django here, which is a database. So I had to import the libraries in order to access Django, but we're not going to talk about that, probably not in this class. So we'll get started with our first lesson. So the first thing to do is right click on lesson and choose new. You have all these different things. You can either choose Python file or file. So let me show you what Python file. If I choose Python file, it just automatically gives it the .py extension. But I've noticed that when I do this, it takes longer. But let's do it this time. So I'll say lesson 1 will be, we'll just say session 1 and hit OK. Well, actually, it surprised me. It went pretty quick, so that's good. So our first lesson is Python is a little bit different than most languages. There's some things that you don't have to do that Python does for you, which makes it very powerful. So we'll learn how to print a statement. So how you print something, you type in print, and then you do as you see here, you could hit enter, and it automatically puts what you need to put in there, and it tells you values or a string, and end it with a string. So we'll say hello CCAC, just like that. Now, you don't have to put, in other languages, you have to put a semicolon to end the statement that tells it to execute. Not Python, it doesn't care. So, in order to run this, you have two options. You can go up to run and click run. You can click run this way. Easiest way is to right click and choose run, and then choose your lesson that you want to run. So this is session. So I hit run, and look at that at the bottom. It just says hello CCAC. It's pretty quick, pretty simple. So let's say that we wanted to use an address. So let's say print and put my address is, and we'll say 300, actually let's do this, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. See if anyone's ever heard of that. And then I'll do print, and I'll put, actually, I need to put a whole address here, so let's change this. Mockingbird Lane, and we'll put Hollywood, California, 90210, and then we'll do that. Then right click and run session, and right here, it displays that information, just pretty simple like that. So that right there is, just using a literal string. So that's one way you could do it. So let's say that we put double quotes in here. Oops. Oh, where's the double quotes at? Right there. Let's say that we did this. I want to comment this out. In order to comment code out in Python, you have to use pound. It uses the same thing as a programming language called Perl. Now if I right click on it, it works too. So you could use a string or a string literal. So this right here would be your string literal, And then this right here is just your typical string that has the ticks on it, which doesn't have the quotation marks. And that gets you started with putting information on the screen. It's pretty simple. Another thing is I tell developers all the time is have something called a legend in your code. A legend starts with a pound, and this would be, first thing that you would start off would be, you would talk about, what would you say? Author. Author is a developer's name. So in this case, I'll say Jeff Seaman. And then you would put date created. Oh, when was your, if you spell right, date created was, today's date is, I don't know what today's date is. All right, the 28th. So May 28, 2018. Then you would put date modified, and you leave it blank. So that way the next person edits this, he or she could put when it was modified. And then you would put description. And you say this is a test for lesson 1. So let's say that someone went in and modified it. And let's say they did it on 5/29/18. They would probably put something down here and put modified description. And maybe they would put Charlie Brown added a feature, something like that. But this right here, having the description, author, that right there is pretty much all we need. All right, so that would be pretty straightforward. So we talked about the string output, doing some type of strings. Now let's talk about data types. So, or variables. Data types go with variables. In other programming languages here, if you've taken a different language such as C or Objective-C or Java or ASP.NET, whatever, all those require you to declare a variable. So you have to know, like for example, you have to know, let's see here, let me pull up Sublime. So if I was coding something in Java, for example, I would have to know if it was a string. So let's say I said string name equals LeBron James, okay? So I did LeBron James, and I'd have to do this. And then if I wanted to say, oh, I want to put an integer, a number, and say age, and I put equals 32. And then if I wanted to do a double and say, oh, I want to put salary down, okay, I know salary equals 90.33. Oh, okay, good. Then if I wanted to use, a float, I'd have to say, oh, float, my raise equals 4.55. Something like that. So all these things right here, you have to declare and tell what it equals. Guess what? Python, they don't care about that. You can do what you want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new session, and we'll call it variables. So this is what I'll do, is I'll right click on it, and now we're going to try it the other way. Do file, and I'm going to just say my variables, and then do py. Same thing, it works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this here and keep this going. There we go. And this is about variables. All right, so we're going to do the same thing I just did with that Sublime here. So we're going to do the same thing with LeBron James and all this information, but we're going to do it in PyCharm. So this time, so how we do it, all we have to do is say name equals, and we'll say LeBron James, King James, per se. If I said his age equals, and I just put age for now, I'll put age, we're saying, oh, it's going to be an integer, so we just put 32. And now we say, okay, we need to do salary. We'll put salary equals 400.56, which we know he has a lot more than that. And we'll just keep it at that right there. So there's 3 values right there. Now, if I right click on it and run it, do you think it's going to work? No, because it doesn't know what to do with it right now. We just said to use these variables. What we did here is we wouldn't say declared, we assigned the variables values. So we assigned values, okay? So in order to print it, we do what we did before. We do print, but now we'll just print name, for example, and see what happens. So what it should do is grab that name. So it grabs that name and takes that value that we use and adds it in there. Now we could print all their information here. So let's copy and paste this. And we'll just copy it and change it a little bit. So we'll put age and we'll do salary. Oops, if I can spell it right. All right, so all we're doing here is printing what we assigned here. Run it, and prints it down. So now let's say that we want to, we want to use there's a couple different ways we could do it. We want to say something instead of just printing LeBron James 32,456. So let's say his salary, I think it's 30, well, actually I don't know what it is. So let's look it up. Let me create a new window here. And let's go to Google. LeBron James salary. And that's probably like 32 million maybe. All right, 30.96 million. All right, so well, let's see. That was last year. It was 2018. Doesn't know. Well, we'll just put 30.96 million. Okay. All right, so it's 30. Oops, I got to change that. 30. How many sevens? Let's see here real quick. Another 0 would be 3 million. So we'll say, so that would be, so we'll do 30, what was it, 37 mil? 31 mil. And it was 31,960,000. 9, a lot of loot. All right. Okay, so that is 30. Okay, that's the salary. 31,960,000. Jeez, I would be happy with the 196,000. All right, or 960,000. I mean, all right. So there's his salary. There's his age. There's his name. So let's think about how we want to say this. So let's say that we want to say, whoops. Let's just put name, and then we could do plus. Let's see if this works. We'll do a space in there. LeBron James. Actually, we could do this. 2017 salary was, and then we could do a space and do plus, and we could do salary, and then we could put. Actually, we could do this. We could do. Let me think about this. Plus, a couple things we could do. We could do it this way, and then we could do plus. His salary was salary. There's a way of converting it, but later on we'll talk about that. 3196, and then we'll do plus. We'll just try this out, and then we'll take this out and see if that works. All right, so it didn't like that for some reason. That's fine. So print name plus salary was, so it didn't like that. So let's see why. All right, so let's see here. I see, I'm so used to other languages, but I think this is wrong. So let's comment this out and use as a reference. I think it has to be print name, then comma, 2017 salary. Had to Google it for a second because I couldn't remember what it was for a second. All right, so thanks to Google. 2017 salary was, and then we'll do well, we'll do this. We'll do was, and then we'll do comma salary. Think this might work. All right, cool. So LeBron James, we look at how we have this space in here. So that's, we want to add, take a space out of here. So let's move this up. Run this now. All right, LeBron James 2000 salary was. Now this guy right here has a space in it. I don't like that. So let's see. Let's run this and we'll change something here in a second. It's 3196. Now what if we did something like that. And I see it does the same thing. All right, so that, we'll have to come back to that one. That's fine, because we have to move on. We'll come back to that. All right, so now we want to talk about how to create some type of algorithm and come up with a number. So let's close out on this, and let's do new Python file. Boy, is it hot tonight. It's like 90 degrees outside. All right, so we'll call it math. And here we'll start off is we'll assign a value for salary. So we'll say the salary equals, in this case, say 2,500. Let's see, assign a value for bonus number. So let's say bonus salary. Well, actually, let's make it more. Let's make it 250,000. Assign a bonus salary. Bonus. And we'll say bonus equals 10% of that, which is 25K, which is nice. Then let's say that we want to calculate the total pay by adding salary and bonus. So we could do pay, we'll give it its own variable name called pay, equals salary plus bonus. Okay. Now we need to, if we run this, what's going to happen? Nothing. We need to display that screen, display values. And how we do that is we just do a print statement. We could say your pay is, and we could put comma pay. Because all we're doing is we're assigning creating a variable, giving it a value, bonus, and then we're saying the pay, which we just created, equals salary plus bonus. Run it. Your pay is 275,000. So that's a lot of chunk change. So that is, you could do add. You could come up here and do minus. Let's say that they want to do a minus. Then it subtracts it. Subtracts it. We could do an asterisk and multiply it. Wow, that would be a lot of money there. How many monies is that? That's 625 million. All right, you could also divide if you want to, which is that right there, that symbol. And it gives you 10. So these are all the ones that you could do. You could do remainders, exponents, and so forth. But in this class, pretty much what we're talking about there. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? I'm going to talk about exponential. So let's create another screen. So let's close that out and talk a little bit about formatting. So I'll go back to this and I'll call it my formatting. All right. So now let's come up with a way to display information on the screen. So let's come up with some type of calculation. So we could probably go back and use my variables. We could come back and use math. So let's use this, copy this over to this screen. Paste it. We know that it runs like that. So let's do the add instead. We know that that works like that. Fine. So let's change something around here. So we have your print is, and we have comma. So let's use the formats. Do format, and then in parentheses we will put pay. So we're going to format pay, and we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to do a tick dot 2f and run that and see what you, oops, what the heck did I just do? Control Z. Oh, I did. All right, hit run. Oops, that's not right. What did I do? Your pay is, I might have messed it up when I formatted it wrong. So let's see here. Your format is 2F. All right, hold on. What did I do? Your payment is comma, format, comma, space, 2F, and we need one of these guys in here, I think. And why are we missing one? All right, what is going on here? Let me see what I did wrong with here. 1 second. Let me just start from scratch. Print. I will put your salary. Your salary is tick, comma. Come over here and say format. We will say pay, comma. Oh, I see what I did wrong. It has to be pay, comma, tick, dot 2F, tick. All right, that's what I did wrong. Gotta figure out how. So what it does is it adds the 2 decimal points. If you wanted to do 3, then it adds 3. If you wanted to do 4, then it'll just add 4. And this is just depending on what you're looking to get. You might want to get all the values that you want to get. One last thing that we didn't talk about was constants. So let's add a constant in here. So a constant is constant. So what is a constant? It's a value or variable that never changes. Once it's set, it can't be modified. So so let's say, for example, we have amounts equals 450, right? We can't come down here later on and say, oh, you know what, amount equals 900. A constant is something that is a variable that never changes. It always stays the same. But just thinking here. All right, so this right here is the first lesson on Python. So as you see here, we just did a little bit of formatting. We did a little bit of calculations. We talked about how to declare a variable and assign a value. And then we also talked about how to print a statement. So that is the first lesson for week 2 on, or our first lesson in general with Python. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. Thanks for listening and have a great day.